Sarah scrubbed floors. She emptied trash cans. Every day the same routine. Office buildings loomed large, filled with people who barely noticed her. Sarah didn't mind. She found comfort in the rhythm of her work, the quiet hum of the vacuum cleaner, the scent of disinfectant. It was her world. Her apartment was small, her life simple. She had few possessions. Her most prized possession was a worn photo of her grandfather. He was the only family she had left. He had been a kind man, a carpenter with calloused hands and a gentle smile. He used to tell her stories of forests and mountains. He had passed away a year ago, leaving a void in Sarah's life. One day, a letter arrived, an official-looking letter with the words, "Last Will and Testament" printed on the top. It was addressed to Sarah. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The letter was from her grandfather's lawyer. It said that he had left her something. An inheritance. A small cabin in the woods. Sarah was stunned. A cabin? Her grandfather had never mentioned owning a cabin. Curiosity warred with apprehension. Sarah had never been outside the city. The thought of going to a remote cabin, all alone, filled her with unease. But something drew her to it. Maybe it was the promise of adventure. Maybe it was the hope of feeling closer to her grandfather. The bus ride was long and bumpy. The city gave way to rolling hills, then to dense forests. Sarah felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach. What would she find at the cabin? Finally, the bus reached a small town, a sleepy town with a general store and a post office. This was as far as the bus went. From here, she had to walk. The lawyer had given her directions. A dirt path leading into the heart of the woods. The air grew cooler as she entered the forest. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating dancing patterns on the ground. A sense of peace settled over her. The cabin was smaller than she had imagined. Nestled deep within the forest, it seemed almost like a relic from another time, untouched by the modern world. Built of logs with a sloping roof and a porch overlooking a small clearing. It looked abandoned. The wood was weathered, and the roof sagged slightly under the weight of years gone by. Cobwebs decorated the windows, and the paint was peeling. The once vibrant colors had faded, leaving behind a dull, lifeless hue that spoke of neglect. Sarah took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation, wondering what secrets lay hidden within. It creaked loudly as if protesting after years of silence. The sound echoed through the stillness of the forest, a reminder of the cabin's long solitude. The air inside was stale, thick with dust. Sunlight streamed through the dirty windows, casting eerie patterns on the floor. She coughed, covering her mouth with her sleeve. The dust swirled around her, disturbed by her presence after so many years of stillness. The cabin consisted of a single room. It was sparsely furnished, with only the bare essentials. A fireplace stood on one side, cold and empty. It had not seen a fire in many years, its hearth covered in a fine layer of ash. A rough-hewn table and chairs occupied the center of the room. The wood was rough to the touch, and the chairs creaked under the slightest pressure. And in the corner, a narrow staircase led to a loft. The steps were steep and narrow, worn smooth by countless footsteps over the years. It was humble, but there was a strange sense of peace about the place. Despite its dilapidated state, the cabin exuded a quiet charm, as if it held memories of happier times. Sarah walked around, taking in every detail. She could almost hear the echoes of laughter and see the shadows of those who had once called this place home. On a dusty shelf she found old photographs, their edges curled and colors faded. They were glimpses into the past, snapshots of lives long forgotten. She picked one up, brushing off the dust. The faces in the photo smiled back at her, frozen in time, a stark contrast to the cabin's current state. Sitting at the table, Sarah felt a connection to the past. The cabin, though abandoned, was a testament to resilience and the passage of time. As the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the cabin, Sarah knew she had found something special. This place, with all its imperfections, held a story worth uncovering. Sarah spent the next few days cleaning. She swept the floors, washed the windows, and scrubbed every surface she could find. The cabin had been neglected for years, and it showed. Dust clung to every corner, and cobwebs hung like delicate lace from the rafters. But Sarah was determined to bring it back to life. She worked tirelessly, her hands moving with a rhythm that was almost meditative. The physical labor was a welcome change from her usual routine of cleaning office buildings in the city. Here, in the quiet of the woods, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She aired out the musty smell, letting the fresh mountain air fill the space. The scent of pine and earth replaced the stale odor, making the cabin feel more like a home. She opened all the windows, allowing the sunlight to stream in and chase away the shadows. The beams of light danced on the wooden floors, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Gradually the cabin came alive again. The once dull interior now glowed with a newfound vibrancy. The wooden walls seemed to breathe and the entire space felt rejuvenated. Sarah took a step back and admired her work. It was as if the cabin itself was thanking her for the care and attention she had given it. It felt good to use her hands for something other than cleaning office buildings. Here, she was creating something beautiful, something that had a history and a soul. She felt a deep connection to the cabin, as if it were a part of her own story. One afternoon, she decided to explore the loft. She had been curious about it since she first arrived. The ladder leading up to it was old and creaky, but sturdy enough to hold her weight. A wooden ladder led up to a trapdoor. She hesitated for a moment, wondering what she might find up there, but her curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to take the plunge. She pushed it open and climbed inside. The air was thick with dust, and she had to stifle a sneeze. The loft was a time capsule, untouched for years. The loft was dark and cramped, filled with old furniture and boxes covered in dust cloths. It was a treasure trove of forgotten memories, each item telling a story of its own. She pulled the cloth off one of the boxes. It was heavy and covered in a thick layer of dust. She coughed as the dust particles filled the air, but her excitement grew. Inside she found stacks of canvases. Curious, she unwrapped one. It was a painting. The colors were vibrant, and the brushstrokes were masterful. She could hardly believe her eyes. Inside she found stacks of canvases. Curious, she unwrapped one. It was a painting. A beautiful landscape depicting a mountain meadow bathed in sunlight. She unwrapped another canvas, then another. Each one was more breathtaking than the last. She felt a sense of awe and wonder, as if she had stumbled upon a hidden treasure. A beautiful landscape depicting a mountain meadow bathed in sunlight. She unwrapped another canvas, then another. Each one was more breathtaking than the last. The painting seemed to capture the very essence of the mountains, the light, and the air. She felt a deep connection to the artist, as if they had shared the same love for this place. Each one was more breathtaking than the last. She couldn't believe her luck. These paintings were not just beautiful, they were a testament to the talent and passion of the artist. She felt honored to have discovered them, and she knew that this moment would stay with her forever. And swirled in her mind as she continued to explore the space, her curiosity growing with each step. What could this cabin to escape the noise of the city, to find solace in nature, the hustle, and ensure that his art would never be forgotten? Sarah stayed in the cabin for weeks. She spent her days exploring the surrounding woods, her evenings reading her grandfather's journal and admiring his paintings. She felt closer to him than she had in years. She understood now why he had left her the cabin. It wasn't just a building, it was a legacy, a gift of beauty and peace, a testament to the power of following one's passion. It was also a sign of his love for her. He had trusted her with his secret, his art, his heart. Sarah returned to the city a changed woman. She quit her job as a janitor and rented a small studio. She began to paint, inspired by her grandfather's work and guided by his memory. Her first paintings were clumsy, hesitant, but she persevered. She took classes, read books, and practiced every day. Slowly, her talent emerged. Her own unique style, a blend of realism and emotion. She began to show her work in local galleries. At first there was little interest, but then, one day a painting sold. Then another, and another. People were drawn to the beauty and emotion in her work. They saw in her paintings a reflection of their own longing for peace, for connection with nature. Sarah's life had changed completely. She was no longer the invisible janitor, she was an artist, a successful artist with a growing reputation. But she never forgot where her journey had begun. She kept the cabin in the woods. It became her sanctuary. A place to escape the demands of her new life, to reconnect with her grandfather's spirit, and to find inspiration for her art. The cabin, once forgotten and neglected, was now a place of pilgrimage. Art lovers from all over the world came to visit, to see the place where Sarah's talent had been born, to feel the presence of the grandfather she had never met, but whose legacy lived on through her work.